Shalom, and welcome to our Israel Vision friends and family around the world. Last week we were so blessed to have Merv Merla Watson on the program. Their music is so special, truly anointed by the Lord, the Holy One of Israel.
Thanks so much, Merv and Merla, for being with us. And your music really does minister peace. It's such a great joy to have you as friends. We appreciate you so much. Now, what were we just listening to, Merv?
Okay, there was a lady who was a composer and organist in France called Suzanne Hayek-Ventura. And this lady, from about 1920 to her death in 2000, made a study of the oral tradition of the Bible. And the markings are called ta'mim. They're markings above the text and below the text, which refer to how do you sing it.
In the Hebrew scriptures.
Yeah, in Hebrew
They were
scriptures.
the jot and the tittle that Jesus was talking about.
Basically, yes. And so what she did and made a lifetime study of this, and what you heard there was Psalm 23. And in this, the music is so closely knit in with the words that if you're passing through the valley of the shadow of death, then the music takes on this ambience. Or if you're rejoicing around the banquet before your enemies, that has this uplifting, inspiring quality.
So this is biblical music you're talking about.
That's right.
Like going back to the time of King David or the time of the Bible. So tell us about that.
Well, if you turn to the first section of Chronicles, it talks about the death of Jonathan and Saul. And in this, there is a long lament. Yes. And this also is recorded. And it's recorded in the same style as David would have sung it, as he lamented the death of the great and the mighty of Israel.
His friend Jonathan and, of course, Saul, Jonathan's father.
That's right. There's about 15 verses there which deal with this death.
How are the mighty fallen?
How the mighty have fallen. And so this music has been translated into actual performance. So the tenor that you heard there with the harp probably used a harp about this size, either a 5-string or a 10-string harp, and he would accompany himself with very simple, what they call fourths and fifths, which are intervals between two notes. Like, for example, C and F would be a fourth, and G would be a fifth. So you play this as an accompaniment to what you were saying. And so that music as well would be indicated.
What kind of musical instruments, or what categories did they have in the time of the Bible?
Well, you could trace all instruments down through from the very beginning to, so there's percussion, flute, and that family, and strings. So these are the basic instruments. We go back to the time of Jubal, who was a descendant of Noah, very close descendant of Noah, I think grandson. And it describes in Genesis, I believe the 4th chapter, it describes his being the father of all those that handle the harp and the organ. And the harp at that time was a very strange looking thing. I can't see it too well here, but it has a very strange, you probably can't see, I'm not sure you can see that or not, but it has a kind of a stem up here and a box, a stem and a box and strings that are attached to the box. And that box is your amplifier. So he would have invented this as an instrument. So that would be your strings. And then the organ would have been something along the line of this. This is called a panpipe. And each of the lengths of the pipe give a different sound. So all the way up the scale till the smaller ones have the smallest sound, have the highest sound. Well, this would have been translated as organ. Okay, and then we have
a mouth organ.
It actually is a predecessor to the mouth organ. The mouth organ simply has got reeds that lie across the top. When you blow into them this way, then the reeds vibrate, and that gives you your various pitches. So your reeds. If I set this inside a large mouth organ, this would be what it would be like inside with different lengths of reeds. But in this case, you have different lengths of bamboo. And they progressed from the first, they made a hole first of all, maybe just one, and that would make a sound. Then they started to add these holes, and this made your instrument go lower, the long one, or higher. So that was a predecessor of the mouth organ. and the accordion. Now we have a predecessor of the trumpets, which would be this, which is a shofar. Now this is an ibex horn, I believe, and is pretty loud. Well, that was the predecessor of your blown instruments, which are along the trumpet side. And here is some picture of the trumpets that were developed down through the ages. And as a matter of fact, this one here, the long curlicue one, is a Roman trumpet. And this one here in sections is exactly like the trumpets that was on the the triumphal arch, where they have the picture of the menorah they've taken from the temple. Well, this is in sections, and that's how the trumpets were built. They were built in each parts, and they were joined together. Then they make the trumpet.
Made of what?
Metal, silver. And at that time, going back to that point, they were able to smelt silver, and it was brass before that, and then became brass to us, but they had silver trumpets in the temple. So they had to be silver. So they were made this way. As a matter of fact, one of these trumpets was found in the island of Elephantine in Ethiopia. Oh. And it's in sections. So that trumpet you see on the Titus Arch of Triumph is in fact a replica of the actual trumpet that was used. So that would go right back to the first temple.
That's amazing.
So what about the reed and the other instruments there? Are you going to show?
Okay. Now, this instrument here is from Turkey. And when the Crusaders went through Turkey, they had a few wars. And as they were fighting, they were supposedly scared by the sounds of these instruments. And when I blow this, I know what I don't think I'll blow this. It's just wild. Anyway, the sound is
give us a little
screeching.
We want to hear it.
It's
You'll
pretty,
be sorry.
yeah, this is a very rough experience. I'd be scared, would you? I mean, if that was played in front of me. So this becomes actually the predecessor of all our double reed instruments, such as the oboe, the alto horn, which is your English horn, plus your bassoon, plus all these instruments that became part of the normal bands in the villages of Europe came from this essential instrument, which was a Turkish invention. Okay? And then they used to have the timpani, which the big kettle drums, they were kettles. And they put them on the either side of the camel and bum, 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 to scare the enemy. Just like we have the bagpipes. You used to play the bagpipes in front of the army. Yes. That would scare anybody too. And so it's scary. I mean, that was actually, the bagpipes were a joke that the Irish played on the Scots. They finally got rid of the bagpipes. Anyway, they play this, and this was also a Turkish beginning. So here.
What about the other instrument? We want to hear those. Come on, Merv.
Okay, let me see now.
Now this is really a piece of bamboo?
That's a piece of bamboo, and this was made in Nepal, but this is the same kind of principle. Now this is a little harder to play. I'll see if we can get it. That's probably your predecessor for all the flute instruments. Now the recent development, of course, was the recorder, which brought about the clarinet, the saxophone. All those instruments came from this. Much easier to play. So that instrument was your predecessor for all your wind instruments in the orchestra.
What's that thing over there?
Okay, this is your percussion.
And what is it?
This is a carob bean. This is actually what they make cocoa out of, right? I mean, the chocolate or the... this is what probably John the Baptist ate.
The health food chocolate.
The health food chocolate, that's right. So there it is, and it's got these big beans in it, and it works well. So that's was your early instrument. But these are related to a course I'm going to be offering at the University of Hodoland, which was established by Dr. Steve Fawn, who's a world authority on the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I mentioned to Stephen that probably it would be good if he had a fine arts wing, of his university. So it's a beginning university. It's been around about 10 some odd years.
Oh, that's exciting.
And so we're going to expand this into the fine arts area, so people who come there can also study music.
Now, do you actually use any of these instruments in your, your performances?
Yeah, we use the recorder. I use the advanced panpipe, better known as the accordion. And we introduce our program usually with a shofar.
Well,
and
we want to hear something that you've sung. Tell us about what we're going to... This was something recorded in Norway, and so we're going to cut to that, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we did a 2-hour concert in Norway, and this was some of the excerpts from a DVD which was made of the evening. And it was snowing outside to the point of about 2.5 feet. While we were singing, we didn't hear that. That's how we found it. But we had this concert that we do. Since Merla writes all the music, we present her songs together.
Wow.
And this is another example of
Let's go to it right now.
I hear the footsteps of Messiah, steps that once were dim, and he will rule with rod of iron, will gather unto him. King Yeshua, he is the Prince of Peace, he is the Lord of Lords. King Yeshua, he is the great Redeemer, we wait in hope for him. I hear the footsteps of Messiah, God of tears and wars. I hear his voice, he's calling me, he's standing at my door. King Yeshua, he is the Prince of Peace, he is the Lord of Lords. King Yeshua, he is the great Redeemer, we wait in hope for him. When the footsteps of Messiah come before his bride, and she'll be pure and undefiled, she'll walk close by his side. King Yeshua, he is the Prince of Peace, he is the Lord of Lords. King Yeshua, he is the great Redeemer, we wait in hope for him. A wedding feast he has prepared for those who overcome. Oh, listen to those coming steps, for they begun to run. King Yeshua, he is the Prince of Peace, he is the Lord of Lords. King Yeshua, he is the great Redeemer, we wait in hope for him. King Yeshua, he is the Prince of Peace, he is the Lord of Lords. King Yeshua, he is the great Redeemer, we wait in hope for him. King Yeshua, we wait in hope for him.
That's great. You folks have majored in making a joyful noise or sound unto the Lord
And
God
all
of
your
Israel.
children are also
And
involved.
your children. And if you're interested in any of this wonderful music, get online. You'll see us at the bottom of the screen, and also a toll-free telephone number, so you have no excuse not to order Merv and Merla's creative prophetic music.
We want to leave you with these words from the Word of God. It's such beautifully illustrative of what Merv and Merla are actually doing today. It says, "Your watchmen shall lift their voices, and with their voices they shall sing together. For they shall see eye to eye when the Lord brings back Zion. Break forth into joy. Sing together, you waste places of Jerusalem. For the Lord has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God." Isaiah 52, 8, 9, and 10. So Merv and Merla, thanks for being with us, and we want to have you back again real soon. And so we're saying goodbye to you, dear viewers all over the world, and we bless you from Zion with these words.
Shalom from Jerusalem.
Shalom and welcome to Israel Vision's weekly portion, Fact or Fantasy. I'm Dr. J. Rawlings and your host, and today I want to talk about some new Hamas video clips recorded from PATV that have just been released thanks to Itamar Marcus and Barbara Cook at the Palestinian Media Watch. It's because of their work that we have this information. And it's pretty clear that Hamas has concluded from Israel's withdrawal from Gaza that violence, not negotiations, is their most effective means in their ongoing effort to weaken and eventually destroy Israel. This is according to a new video just released on the official Hamas website. And it shows images of Israelis being evacuated from Gaza, and destroyed Israeli buildings there are shown, while these words are sung over top of the pictures. The invaders fled, the army of the Jews has been defeated, the home and homeland is returning by blood, not through negotiations, surrender, or promises. And these last words showing, rejecting the negotiations are sung over the famous images of agreements being signed by Shimon Peres and Ariel Sharon with Palestinian leaders, while the words "homeland is returning" are sung. So the image of Israeli cities of like Haifa and Tel Aviv are being displayed, stressing that Hamas sees all of Israel as their homeland to be targeted. Then words like "let the enemies leave their entire land and take their holy books," which are all black, and these words are being sung while images of Jews at prayer are being shown. The clear message being that the Palestinian viewers is that the Gaza withdrawal is both a defeat of Israel through terror and a precedent for the future. Accordingly, neither the means nor the goals of Hamas have changed. Violence and terror and non-recognition are seen as leading Israel to their continual demise and the continual victory of Hamas with Israel's destruction. And we're going to show right here a clip, okay, and then go on. It's fairly clear and obvious that the fervor and zeal of eliminating Israel from the face of the map is still the order of day for the Palestinian leadership under Hamas. This is J. Rawlings reporting to you from Jerusalem for Fact or Fantasy.
Shalom, shalom. Here we are again in the garden. Come and sit with me for just a moment. It's been a very hard summer here in Israel. I received a letter from a lady in America saying, "Meridel, you sound in your letters like you're in burnout." And I thought to myself, how easy it is to say that. But come and live on our side of the world for a while, and maybe get a little bit of understanding of the pressures that we live with every day. Not only have we had 6 wars since the inception of Israel, we have had since 2000 4 years of constant internal warfare in our cities and streets. And that was terrible because our children were riding buses and they never knew when they were going to be blown up. I had the privilege of sitting with young soldiers the other day, and they were talking about when they were teenagers, and one said, "You know, I just decided on the bus on my way to school that if it blew up, it blew up. There was nothing I could do about it. I made my peace. Another young person said, a suicide bomber came to our school and blew himself up in the midst of 20 of our finest grade 12 students. 20 dead, dozens and dozens wounded. These are young teens. I talked to another young person who was at a camp with 300 young people, and they were asked 3 questions, and the questions were, everyone stand up. Number 1, how many of you have witnessed an accident? They didn't say terrorist incident, they just said accident. Several sat down. Number 2, how many of you have been in an accident? Several sat down. Number 3, how many of you have lost friends and loved ones in an accident? Several sat down. How many young people do you think were standing after these 3 questions? Out of 300, only 3 remained standing. We are a nation that is truly suffering from the effects of warfare. And then this summer we had the war in Lebanon. Our boys were captured. They're still caught. I'm getting letters from friends saying, what happened to the 3 soldiers that were kidnapped? They're still kidnapped. There is no word of where they are. There is no talk of returning them. This is stress. And then we lost several beautiful young people up in Lebanon. And then we had we had 1 million people in bomb shelters in northern Israel. And you know, we had a visiting pastor this summer. The perceptions of the West and the perceptions of the Middle East are very different. For example, this summer we had a visiting friend who's a pastor, and he said, oh, it's very important to have guns in your house. We said, we live with guns all the time. We survive by being patrolled. Our streets are patrolled 24 hours a day. We don't love guns. We don't want guns. We don't fight to carry guns. We hate guns. We would love to live without guns. Oh, but you're going to need guns because when war comes and you have food, your neighbors will kill you to get the food, he said. I said, what are you talking about? We are a family here in Israel. We die for one another. We stand for one another. We have to stick together. Do you realize that in my neighborhood there are hundreds of families living here from the war in the north? We open our doors and carry one another and bring one another in. It's a concept of family that keeps us alive in Israel. Then I received another letter just recently from a little woman in Scotland in her 80s, and she was irate. And she said, I hate to watch the news on Israel. She said, why don't they do their research on Hezbollah? Friends, it's wake-up time. It's time to get the truth. It's time to go back to the prophets. They described it all. We don't need to be afraid. It's actually a great day, and we're very happy to be alive. But most of all, each one of us needs to find that still small place, quiet place, the secret place where we can hide. Yes, we need to hide. We need to have a moment where we can pull away from all of the pain and all of the agony around us. You can't live with it forever. And I'm so grateful for the garden, friends. But the garden needs to be inside of your heart and in your mind. I would love to hear from you. Keep those letters coming. stillsmallvoice.tv